This is the basics of robots in the IDW's Robots in Disguise.
IDW Publishing began producing
meantime,
Transformers
let me
comic
do
books
something real
in
quick for you guys.
2005, introducing a brand new continuity that reinvented the world of the Autobots and Decepticons from the ground up. But after 6 years, the company massively changed the landscape of this new universe with one question. What happens to the Transformers after their war ends?
That is actually a pretty good question,
2012,
though.
2 new ongoing monthly comics were launched that explored
There we
the
go,
answer,
chat.
ushering in a new era of critical success and new readership that would come to be referred to as Phase 2 of the IDW universe. Those comics
There we go,
more
chat.
than meets the eye, and the series we're looking at in today's episode. Sponsored by Patreon supporter Jolene Blake, these are the basics on IDW's Robots in Disguise.
Now we're official.
Launched in January 2012, the Transformers Robots in Disguise.
See, I'm
was
getting
written
my
by
taste
John
back somewhat.
Barber, who had
Nice,
recently
let's
made a
go,
name
let's
for
go.
himself on IDW's tie-in comics for the live-action movie Dark of the Moon. Art for the series was provided by Andrew Griffith, with colors by Josh Perez, and featured character designs adapted from the recent War for Cybertron video.
Yeah, because you could kind of tell from like
As the
Ironhide and
series began,
Bumblebee.
the Transformers war had finally ended, and the Autobots and Decepticons now coexisted in an uneasy peace with the rest of Cybertron's unaffiliated civilian population. Megatron had disappeared, and Optimus Prime, knowing that the people considered him just as responsible for the war, had stepped down as Autobot.
Like I said, there is a third-party figure of this particular version of Optimus Prime. It is done by G Creations, and to this day, I have not transformed this thing. I am terrified to I've tried once, and it got so unnecessarily complicated that I'm like, yeah, no, we're going back, and it's gonna stay in bot mode, and that's where it will forever stay.
Bot leader, leaving Bumblebee with the job of trying to establish a new government on the planet. In addition to B, major characters in this opening story arc included civilian representative Metal Hawk.
I know a lot of people like
Starscream,
Metal Hawk,
seeking to acquire a position of power in the new government. Wheeljack and Ironhide, each dedicated to making the peace work in their own.
I will say though, I will say, there was a nice little cheeky remark about when Starscream got his Armada form, or his Armada body. He mentioned to like G-Axis cosplaying as him. Those were his exact words. The IDW comics were an interesting time.
Own way, and the scheming Prowl, who didn't share his comrade's optimism and took more cloak and dagger means of preserving the peace with the help of his secret ally, RC.
Oh, yeah,
Unfortunately,
RC
a
is
group of dissident Decepticons
she's
were
a
able
thing.
to place Prowl under mind control and fused him with the Constructicons to create a new, more powerful version of the Combiner, Devastator.
And you can actually get like third-party add-ons for Devastator. I think it's like for the Thrilling 30s Devastator, where you can actually get the Prowl head.
To serve as the ultimate weapon in the returned Megatron's new plan to take over the planet. The Autobots were able to rescue Prowl and defeat Megatron, but Starscream was able to exploit the disaster to get the people to elect him the new leader of Cybertron. A subplot that ran throughout this first arc followed Optimus Prime as he traveled the galaxy, discovering evidence that Decepticon scientist Shockwave had a plan of his own in motion. This led into 2013's
Yep, this is what I was talking about.
Cybertron, a crossover with more than meets the eye, produced as a tie-in to be packaged with figures in the Transformers Generations toy line.
Yeah, and the Generations Thrilling 30s toy line was an absolute fucking mess, to say the least. Like, it was genuinely like a huge mess.
The story brought the comic's second year to a close as the heroes of both titles reunited to stop Shockwave from collapsing the universe.
And like the conclusion of this was not bad. Like, it
In
wasn't really that bad,
2014,
honestly.
The comic's action moved from Cybertron to Earth, and the series dropped its subtitle to become known simply as The Transformers, in order to avoid confusion with the upcoming new toy line and cartoon, also called
sadly.
Robots in Disguise.
Which, okay, I'm gonna say this, right? I'm gonna say this about Transformers. They really, and I do mean, they really need to start working on a better naming convention. Because just about every single solitary piece of Transformers fiction has kind of reused names after like previous shows or previous toy lines. Hell, I think Earthspark, was the name of like a toy line for like small children. And Robots in Disguise was the name of the 2001 anime of the same name.
This year saw Optimus Prime.
They
return
really,
to Earth
really need
as
to
he
like
and a small
fix that
team of
naming
Autobots
convention.
searched Earth for the Enigma of Combination, an ancient artifact belonging to the original 13 Primes from Cybertronian legend with the power to create combiners. Also
Yeah,
searching
this
for the
whole thing
Enigma
was a
were
mess.
team of Decepticons led by Galvatron,
Yeah,
who
there's
had
branding and
duped
then
Earth's
they're
anti-alien task
reusing.
force,
Yeah,
Earth Defense
it gets to the
Command,
point where it's
into
just
allying
lazy as
with them
shit.
against the Autobots.
Also,
Dark Flames-
I don't know, I keep pausing, but like, also, I feel really bad for, okay, so I genuinely feel bad for G.I. Joe. So, I genuinely feel bad for G.I. Joe because I feel like G.I. Joe cannot be its own, like, franchise anymore. Like, it genuinely just cannot, and it almost really feels like, not even like a conjoined twin. G.I. Joe nowadays just feels like a parasite. Like, what was once a really, really good toy line for kids is now just like a parasite to Transformers because they tried to tag on G.I. Joe to just about every single solitary Transformers incarnation in some capacity. They tried this with the comics. It didn't work. They tried this with the movies. We all know how that worked. So it was just, I feel bad for the G.I. Joe fans because they genuinely deserve better.
Rule of Cybertron, meanwhile, was explored in the new series Windblade, but the two plotlines would collide again in a second Toyline tie-in crossover event.
Fusion, thank you for becoming a part guest. Thank you.
Wars, in which the power of the
Thank you,
Enigma
thank
was
you.
unleashed when the increasingly unstable Prowl tried to stop Starscream from re-establishing contact with a long-lost Cybertronian.
Also, I have words. So, I have words about this whole debacle I'm hearing about the new Superion. I'm hearing I have words. I generally have words because fans are complaining. They are bitching. They are bitching about this new Superion that's coming out. And I will get to it after this video. I'm going to get to it after this video because it kind of grinds my balls.
In colonies on other planets. Prowl failed, but the inhabitants of these colonies turned out to worship primes as divine beings. So to
Yep,
keep
because then we get, like, the
Starscream's
13
ambitions in
primes.
check, Optimus reluctantly leveraged the colonists' belief in him to influence their
And
decisions.
then somehow they go back to
in
their
order
original
build a
forms. I don't think
better
they explain
united
why.
future for all the planets together. But Prime would wind up taking this new authority to a drastic extreme in the climactic 2016 story arc All Hail Optimus, when Galvatron launched an invasion of Earth, and Optimus took it upon himself to annex the planet into the Cybertronian
Yeah,
Empire
which, to be fair, I don't
for
think it was a good idea.
protection.
I don't think it was a good idea
So
to
was
do
posed
that,
the question
honestly.
that would shape Barber's stories going forward. Despite the good intentions with which he'd acted, did the power and influence he wielded as a prime mean that Optimus was fated to
And-
inevitably succumb to the same legacy?
And I feel like it kind of goes with, like,
Corruption
hell was
as
paved,
all
the
those
road
who
to hell
had
is
the title
paved with
before
good
him.
intention. I think that's the
Additions to
thing here.
cast during this second act of the series included Autobots Cup, Jazz, Jetfire, Sideswipe, and Cosmos. Soundwave, who eventually
They
abandoned
made a really
Galvatron
cool
and began
Jetfire toy
working with
for
Optimus
the
to
early
build a
30s, and I
better
really
future
wanted.
for the Decepticons. Thundercracker, who had left Cybertron behind.
I love Thundercracker in the comics. He became like a Hollywood writer, and he's just writing like for movies and shit. I love Thundercracker. This guy's a fucking goat.
Pursue a new life as a filmmaker on Earth, and his human friend, EDC Commander Marissa Fairborn.
Oh hey,
Also
it's
introduced was the
I think that's
notable
what
original
Power
character,
Glide's girlfriend in
Aileron,
G1.
an idealistic young bot from the colony planet Caminus, who became sorely disillusioned after she was confronted by the grimy reality of Cybertronian life and politics. But probably the most significant character in Barber's run, next to Optimus himself, was RC.
Oh no, are they gonna go over
Controversially
this?
Introduced in early IDW
We are.
stories as the deranged victim of a
Okay, so I normally don't put trigger warnings, but we're about to go into some kind of weird, fucked up shit that involves transgender, like forced transgender surgeries and stuff like that. So, viewer discretion is advised.
forced sex reassignment. She was rehabilitated and reinvented by Barber as an isolated bot searching for a way to emotionally connect with others outside of combat.
This was kind of like, he just
The Transformers
quickly glanced over
concluded
it.
with a
Okay.
short
Yeah, so the whole thing with RC was that she was originally a male. She was Galvatron's brother. Don't ask. He was originally Galvatron's brother, and he went under a so what it is that RC was originally Galvatron's brother, who was kidnapped by G-Axis, which G-Axis, I think it was like he was fascinated by organics and that they had this concept of gender. And so he wanted to introduce gender to Cybertronians because they're all, well, male, basically. And so it didn't turn out well. RC turned out to be an absolute raging berserker. And I think somewhere down the line, they fixed her and she became kind of adjusted, so to speak. But then they introduced female Transformers anyway. So this whole arc of G-Axis wanting to introduce gender into a relatively genderless, species kind of just went out the window, and then they kind of pseudo retconned it into, well, RC was female the entire time. It was the whole story with RC is a fucking mess.
reassignment. She was rehabilitated and reinvented by Barber.
I'm glad that
as
she
an
got the happy
isolated
ending with her
bot
girlfriend.
Searching for a way to emotionally connect with others outside of combat. The Transformers
genuinely
concluded
speaking.
with a short third toy line tie-in event, Titan's Return, wrapping up in September 2016.
This was
with
an
its
interesting toy
57th
line, to
issue.
say the least. It was
A
okay.
few months later, in December, it was relaunched as a new series titled Optimus Prime, with Barber still at the helm, now joined by new artist Kei Zama and colorist Josh Burcham. This series dealt with the fallout of Optimus's decision, as he attempted to build a working relationship between a Cybertron displeased by his unsanctioned
God damn, if they're gonna
unilateral
put that
action, and
that
an
dark,
Earth
they should
that
at
had never
least
asked
have the
to be
guts.
part of
Yeah,
the
they really
Transformers
should
world.
have.
Exploring themes such as the ramifications
Instead
of
of ju-
colonialism, the challenge of balancing
Instead of just
societal
like,
unity
oh,
with
well, she
individual
was female the
freedom,
whole time
and
because
the
now we have
power
female
of
Transformers.
stories to shape the world. The series saw
And then I think it was like they went around and saying like, oh, well, all of the female Transformers were on a basically like just glorified Amazon, basically. Like they live in Amazonas society off of, I want to say it was Caminus. I want to say it was a Cybertronian colony, I think it was entirely exclusively just made up of female Transformers, and it was by the name of, I think it was called Caminus. And their representative was the Mistress of Flame, who was a all-female combiner, who also was a fan-created character. That one I have a little bit more, I can believe that because of just how quickly they pumped those toys out, because they were all retools and repaints. So that one I can completely see that. Like, they had the molds already on hand, basically. But yeah, it's they should have just stuck with it. But
Prime
that's neither here nor there.
Those around him as he was forced to make increasingly questionable and manipulative moves. His greatest critics being Pyra Magna, leader of the Torchbearers from Caminus.
Yep, there we go.
Slide, a resentful colonist from the planet Divisian, who both rejected belief in Prime's divinity. And over it all loomed the threat of Onyx Prime, one of the long-vanished original 13.
Yeah, so Onyx Prime was like...
return to Cybertron.
I like how they make his head look almost like Deathsaurus.
Yeah,
so Onyx Prime was like the progenitor of all beast formers, like any Transformer that had like a beast mode.
Trilogy and key crossovers with other Hasbro properties like Revolution, Revolutionaries, ROM vs. Transformers, and First Strike.
Yeah, all of those didn't do so well.
Laid across all these different
they all didn't do so well, I'm gonna be honest with you.
Optimus Prime in 2018, when it transpired that the return of Onyx Prime was a hoax perpetrated by Shockwave as part of a new plan to awaken the monster planet Unicron.
Yeah, and then this was like the end.
Race the original Primes had wiped out in their crusade.
Yeah, this was like the end of the comic series, basically.
Everything culminated in the 6-issue Unicron miniseries, which brought Barber's 7-year
and then they did like a
saga
reboot
and the entire IDW Transformers universe to an end, as Optimus, last of the Primes, gave up his life to confront and destroy the embodiment.
I really hope we get like a toy of Onyx.
His sacrifice opened the way to a new, united future for the Transformers and humankind.
I genuinely hope we actually do get like a toy of Onyx Prime, because that would be really fucking sick.
Critical praise more than meets the eye received. John Barber's run was just as essential to the identity of Phase 2. In many ways, it was the main Transformers comic, its story defining the shape and direction of the IDW universe.
It was, but at the same time, it also kind of suffered from like, well, we have to make sure that the characters look like the toys, so they constantly had like redesigns throughout the toy line instead of just being consistent.
Years. This did mean that the story and its cast were more prone to abrupt changes due to toyline tie-ins. But
see,
Barber
that
had
was
a
my
talent
issue.
for incorporating Hasbro's demands into his ongoing narrative. In particular, he became famous for his eye for continuity, always building on the work of writers who had come before him, revisiting years-old plot
And that's
threads
fine.
intricately
You know,
weaving
that's
new
perfectly
ideas out of
okay.
them, and reimagining multiple characters.
But it's
into
just
what would
like
become
it kind of gives me like design whiplash, to where I don't like it when like Optimus Prime looks like classic IDW Optimus Prime. Then all of a sudden he became fat as fuck, to be like, oh hey, he has to now tie in with the Combiner Wars. So, oh well, he was like this the entire time, or he got an upgrade to become a Combiner. Now he's back to classic IDW. Was like classic IDW Optimus Prime. Now he's got to tie in with this toy line, so now he's got to look completely different again, with no real explanation. And then he goes back to just being how he was before, with no real explanation. It's whiplash. That is my problem. And it's nothing against the comic runners, right? That has nothing to do with the comic runners. It's more of like that's just Hasbro being Hasbro and just being fucking stupid.
favorite incarnations.
It actually has a sick design in Transformers 1.
57
Goldberg,
issues.
dude. Yeah, Onyx Prime. Yeah, like I do like how all the primes look.
While Optimus Prime ran for 25 issues, collected in 5 volumes, with additional collections for the various crossovers and tie-in miniseries. But with the news that IDW will be losing the Transformers license in 2023,
Yeah,
These
this was
collections will soon
like...
become unavailable. So
Yeah,
if
this is out
episode
of date
has made you
because this was
curious,
made
be
before
sure
all of
not to
this.
miss your chance to read the series that deconstructed the very idea of what it means to be Optimus Prime. And those are the basics.
That was
of
fun.
IDW's Robots in Disguise. Thanks to Jolene for sponsoring this episode about one of her and my
Optimus is very sensitive about his weight. Yeah, no, like honestly, he kind of is, from I mean, it's not like he was fat before, like with, Fatimus Prime back in Energon. But yeah, no, like it's just I would like for them to be kind of consistent with how the comics go, because it's just like it's like if they made a comic book series about Batman and Batman just like randomly starts changing designs like halfway through the comic series and then switching back like nothing happened. It gets a little it's a little like I said, it's kind of whiplashy. Okay. So, let's see here. What else can we watch? And also, I will say, I do like the whole idea of Megatron becoming like an Autobot. I think that's honestly like a really cool idea. So, if you... Chungus Prime. Big Chungus Prime. So, okay. So, I really like the idea of Megatron becoming like an Autobot because of how it ties in with the comics. Because it's just not like Megatron goes, oh, okay, well, I am now an Autobot because XYZ. No, because he actually like wants to atone for all of the crimes that he has committed. And it really kind of sunk in when he went to the Necrobot home planet, because I want to show you guys real quick. Let me see here. Necrobot planet. The Necro world. Okay, because I want to show you, because this kind of like nails in what I'm trying to convey. So let's see here, because I want to make sure I'm like looking at official artwork instead of just like fan art. There we go. Okay. So let me show you guys real quick, because this really kind of like nailed in why he's like this, or in Japanese, Chungus Convoy. I mean, technically there's Big Convoy. I guess that kind of counts. Okay, so here we go. So, on the Necrobot home planet, the Necro world, so for every life that a Transformer has taken, they get a blue flower. Right? They get a blue flower. And that is for like every single life that they have taken. And I believe it's like in some of the pages where some had like a few. Some had a few. I think Optimus had like a good bit because of the war. And then we get to Megatron. And that's all blue flowers. All of this right here is just blue flowers. Next to a monument of him. That is all the lives he has taken. Every single spark he has, dissolved, basically, like extinguished. Yeah. That's why he was like, I have become a pacifist. Because I think it's like here it says like, and who was responsible for their death, whether it was the person giving the order, or sanctioning the assault, or delivering the fatal blow. I don't think there's a statue left on this planet without at least one flower at its base. As a neutral observer, I present this not as an admonishment, but as a simple statement. of fact. You're all killers. I'm not here to judge Passment. I'm not here to try and make you atone for what you have done. For it is for each of you as individuals to face upon your actions. And you may think you can postpone indefinitely that day of reckoning, the terrible moment when you must make sense of who you are and what you did. But you're wrong. Because your past will always catch you unawares. Play the game, play the game, Megatron. Yeah, it's exactly what it is. Goddamn, man's for mass murder. He basically is, because he started the war, right? Because he absolutely 100% started the war. And this is, again, where life kind of caught up to him, and it's like, my God, what have I done? Right? And then it took the death of Ravage to kind of snap him back out and to basically just go to town on Tarn during the final fight. And I mean, like, he went to town, beating the shit out of all the DJD members.
Before we begin today,
so hang on. So we'll watch some more like Transformers stuff because we're talking about Transformers lore. So let me see here. Okay, so let me see here. So this is, let me just cancel out all of this right here. Okay, so this is the basics on the Transformers Dreamwave comics. So I think this is the ones that were in publication back whenever I was a small little dino. Like, I want to say in the early 2000s, I want to say. I think this is also where the War Within style came from too. Megatron, every other death, whatever, they kill my cat. Yeah, he goes full John Wick on the DJD. Because you got to remember, if you were reading the comics, basically he wanted to sit out the final fight because he took an oath of pacifism. He didn't want to hurt anymore. And then as he was seeing everyone get absolutely creamed, and what triggered him was Ravage. I think Ravage was like one of his close friends. He was like, okay, we're going back to business. We're so back, everybody. Okay, so this is the basics on the Dreamwave comics. Let me go ahead and pause. Basics on the Dreamwave comics. So 3, 2, 1, go.
Today's episode, it's getting close to the end of the year, and if you're a regular viewer of the channel, you know that means it's nearly time for Obscure Characters.
I love these.
But this year, I'm trying something a little different with the schedule, so Obscure Characters Month is going to be December instead of January. Watch for it soon, and get ready to celebrate the holidays with some lesser-known and cult-favorite bots. And now, on with the show.
I love Obscure Characters Month with this guy.
Comic books have played a big part in the success of the Transformers ever since it began in the 1980s, with Marvel Comics helping to develop the franchise.
In fact, actually, the comics even kind of like affected how Transformers lore goes from like even to today.
Various Transformers titles for its first decade. However, after the end of Marvel's last series, Transformers Generation 2 in 1994, things went quiet for a while, until the early 2000s, when a new company took up the reins, and in just a few short years, went from spectacular beginnings to dramatically crashing and burning. Sponsored by Patreon supporter Luke.
Yeah,
Wood,
because
these are the basics on
I think it
Dreamwave
was like they were
Productions.
spending money on like bullshit.
Dreamwave Productions began life as an art studio founded in 1996 by brothers Pat and Roger Lee, based in Ontario, Canada. At the time, Pat was doing freelance artwork on various comic books for American publisher Image Comics. But realizing that this alone wouldn't pay the rent, the brothers partnered with Image to publish their own original series.
Okay.
At the time, the American market was experiencing a surge of interest in Japanese anime.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Dreamwave
like
capitalized upon this with comics illustrated in a Japanese-inspired
yeah, because like the early 2000s. Wait, hang on, let me see here. Megatron, they killed my cat, Bumblebee. I miss him. I miss him a lot. I miss my cat. I miss my cat, Megatron. Oh no, it's like I miss my cat, Bumblebee. But yeah, so if you weren't alive during the early 2000s, the anime boom over here in the West, like, yeah, nowadays we're actually getting like a huge surge of like anime. But like, sorry about that. Yeah, so if you weren't alive during the early 2000s, there was an absolute huge surge of like anime from like, I want to say like 2000 all the way up to like 2005, right? Even to like 2006, where anime was everywhere. Like everyone wanted anime. Everyone wanted to watch anime. Everyone wanted to read manga. It gave us some really funny ass commercials too. I kind of want to watch some of those, like the infamous like SakuraCon commercials. They were hilarious. Celebrities got in on it. Like Linkin Park is like, I think Chester was like a massive fan of Gundam. Robin Williams got into Evangelion. I'm sorry, Robin. I'm kidding. Like he can like Evangelion, even though Evangelion is fucking awful. But no, like just about every animated series had to have like a anime art style, like Avatar: The Last Airbender, Teen Titans, and it bled obviously into comic books. Again, like you couldn't escape anime in the early 2000s.
style, distinguished by
Yeah, it was
eye-catching
huge.
digital coloring that strove to replicate the look of 90s anime on paper.
I actually miss
Stories
90s anime.
were just thinly veiled rip-offs of the popular anime of the time.
I miss 90s anime
In
art
the year
style.
2000, Pat Lee drew an image of the Transformers for a feature in Wizard magazine, showcasing hypothetical ideas for new comics based on 1980s toy properties, which garnered a lot of positive fan response.
Yeah, because
The
this was
feature
before
proved
like the
prophetic.
80s
Over
boom
the next
too.
year, 80s nostalgia became an increasingly large market that comics publishers sought to tap, and multiple companies began competing for the license to publish new Transformers comics.
Yeah, because like at the time, like the early 2000s, the kids who were like in the 80s finally were, they were all grown up by that time, and they actually had like adult money by this period of time, and they really wanted to capitalize on that nostalgia, and they're just now finally starting to fade away from the 80s stuff, because thank fucking Christ, now it's the 90s stuff that's getting milked. Which I'm all for.
With Lee's image becoming a lightning rod, seen as the ideal modern artistic vision for the franchise that everyone wanted to copy. Naturally then, Dreamwave themselves were among those trying for the license.
Yeah,
and
I miss
quickly made themselves a top
I don't know what it
contender
is.
by
It's just something
reportedly
about the
announcing
Heisei
that
era
if
of
they
like
didn't get
anime
it, the trend-setting
that
Lee
I'm like, I
would
miss this
withdraw
so
the book
fucking much.
freelance for any other company. Their biggest competition was from Marvel, but when they pulled out due to the cost of the license fee, Dreamwave emerged the winner. With the license secured, a confident Dreamwave cut ties with Image and became an independent publisher
Yep,
in
and
December
then
2001.
we're off to the
Following
race,
a
and then we're off to the
preview
races.
issue in March, Dreamwave launched their first Transformers series in April 2002, a 6-issue miniseries written by Chris Saraceni and illustrated by Pat Lee that presented a new version of the classic Generation 1 universe. The comic told the story of the Transformers' reappearance on Earth several years after they were
Like, I've
believed
actually
to have
never
been
seen this before, so
destroyed in the
I'm kind of like just
explosion
taking
of
this
their
all
ship
in.
while attempting to return to Cybertron. The
So it's
series
just
was
a continuation.
Transformers story by and for edgy 20-somethings in a post-9/11 world.
Oh, no.
Full of government conspiracy, international terrorism, and large-scale urban devastation.
Yep.
The wow factor of its
Yep.
flashy colors, masking the line art's dodgy composition, anatomy, and facial expressions. And it
Oh,
was
God,
a
that is horrible.
smash hit success.
Hi, Nox. How you doing? Hang on, let me give you a shout out real quick. We're talking about Transformers. How you doing, Stinky? Hang on, let me give you a shout out. Yeah, because like guys, if you want to see like a really cracked artist, go check out Nox. She's fucking great, and she's so great. I love Nox. Hey, how you doing, Nox? How you doing? We're talking about Transformers. A bit sick, like, oh, I'm so sorry, Nox. Well, come on in here and get cozy. We're watching stuff about Transformers lore.
Charts with between 125 and 140,000 copies sold.
You're also more than
every
welcome
issue.
to pop in my server and
Dreamwave's
or at
license
least in
wasn't
the
just for comics. They also produced
streaming VC and
posters,
just hang out.
lithographs, calendars,
If you want
and
to.
even packaging art and pack-in comics for Hasbro toys, beginning with 2002's new series,
Yep.
Transformers.
I
Armada.
remember these. I remember because like so the Armada comics from what I remembered is that they had like literally like their own separate continuity. Because I think this was like before the whole like multiverse was kind of like established when it comes to Transformers. And so like the minicons in the comics had like their own distinct personalities, and just a lot of different events that happened in the comics was vastly different from that what happened in the anime. It was kind of bonkers.
To tie in with the toy line, Dreamwave also published a full-length ongoing Armada comic, which launched in July, its first issue even outselling that month's G1 issue,
Okay,
moving over 140.
so one of my main issues with this right here is fucking Red Alert. What is going on with his face? I get it that it's from an upshot, but it like from like they're looking up, but like that's nah. You could have done something a little bit better.
45,000 copies. Written by Saraceni and illustrated by James Reyes, the series was separate from the Armada cartoon, telling its own unique version of the Transformers battle.
I hear it wasn't bad.
Minicons. Dreamwave capped off the year with the launch.
Here we go. The War Within.
A mini-series set in continuity with their Generation 1 series, taking place entirely on Cybertron early in the war, which detailed...
And I think that's actually the first time we ever really get to see a Cybertronian Grimlock.
Optimus Prime's rise to power and his first...
Weird angle.
encounter
Yeah, it's a
with
weird
Megatron.
angle.
This significant series marked the return to mainstream Transformers comics of fan-favorite Marvel writer Simon Furman, and was the professional
Grimlock.
debut of popular fan artist Dawn Figueroa, who for the first time in the brand's history designed unique Cybertronian vehicle and robot modes. For
There
the
are actually like third-party figures of this particular Megatron and the Optimus. And let me see if I can pull them up, because like I really want the third party Optimus so badly. It's called let me see here. It's called General Grant. Let's see. So General, I think it's called General Lee. Civil Soldiers. Civil Soldier. I think it's called like no, I'm sorry. I think it's General Lee. I think that's what it was. General. Okay, so General Grant. Okay, General Grant. Let me see here. Yeah, General Grant. Okay, hang on, because I want to pull this up real quick because it's a really, really nice figure. It's a masterpiece scaled War Within Optimus Prime, and I really want it so badly. It's a really fucking badass figure. Like, look at this damn thing. I want it so badly. So, War Within was before the Cybertron games? Yes. Yes, they were. Like, we're talking like a decade before. But yeah, that is the General Grant figure, and was it so nice. There we go. Okay.
Air cast.
And they have one for the Megatron too, and it also looks really, really
when
good.
It transpired that they had been selling their comics outside of North America without ever securing the license to do so.
Oh, yeah, that is a
stopped until the rights could be sorted out.
Yeah, because that can lead you into some hot legal water.
Of their second Generation 1 miniseries in April 2003, the problem foreshadowed issues to come. The second G1 series, War and Peace, written by Dreamwave creative director James McDonough under the alias of Brad Mick, and still drawn by Lee, featured the Transformers returning to Cybertron to liberate it from the rule of Shockwave.
Now, if I also remember correctly, I think the Dreamwave comics were also like I think they were like the first to depict Ultra Magnus as like a white Optimus Prime, because the G1 toy of Ultra Magnus was like the cab for it in alt mode is literally just like a white and blue Optimus Prime.
Also in 2003, Armada continued, now with Simon Furman as writer, joined by Figueroa and Guido Guidi on art. While other releases included More Than Meets the Eye, a highly celebrated 8-issue series of character profiles.
Yeah, I see these everywhere.
Transformers universe that gave many late-run Generation 1 bots full profiles for the first time.
Yeah, I remember
alternate
these.
Universe crossover with G.I. Joe, set during World War II.
Yep, there they are again.
Of The War Within, subtitled The
Yep,
Dark Ages,
and here's the Fallen.
The ancient evil transformer, the Fallen.
So this right here has to be probably the most significant version of the Fallen, right? So, like, to the point where now the toy that's coming out of the Age of the Primes Fallen is pretty much just a one-for-one copy of this motherfucker. Like, a lot of the Dreamwave stuff that came out really impacted the franchise and is still being felt to this very day.
This series saw Furman.
No, it was actually a comic creation. This is where he came
artist
from.
Andrew Wildman. Though his work on the series suffered somewhat due to Dreamwave's insistence on a house style that required their artists to ape the aesthetics of Pat Lee's art. The same year, piggybacking on Dreamwave's success, iBooks launched a trilogy of prose novels.
Yeah, it really
set
is.
in
I love the
G1
comic version of The
continuity
Fallen.
about the robots' battles with mysterious aliens called the Keepers. Dreamwave themselves, meanwhile, leveraged their success with Transformers to acquire the comics licenses for various other properties.
I don't know how I
including
feel about how
Teenage
they look
Mutant
in
Ninja
here.
Turtles and several Capcom video games.
I don't know
But
how I feel
towards
about
the
that.
end of the year,
They
word
look too
began
buff.
to emerge of money management problems at the company. The
They
Lees
genuinely
had
look
been
too
living
buff.
the high life after their first-year success, which included buying luxury sports cars on the company dime. But now, it was apparent that they didn't have the money to pay multiple creators on time. And the result was that many of these new series would wind up being quickly, conspicuously cancelled.
Yeah.
Or never.
Here's the fun thing about Morgana. Morgan. She's like uberly popular with cosplayers. What are we watching? We're watching stuff about... Also, hi, Unknown. We are watching stuff about Transformers lore. And right now we're talking about the Dreamwave comics. And I was talking about Morgan over here from Darkstalkers. And funny enough is that she's from a video game series called Darkstalkers. But the thing is, like, a lot of people don't know that. They think a lot of people think she's from, like, Marvel vs. Capcom.
Never released at all. As 2004 began, these issues didn't appear to be outwardly affecting the Transformers comics. The Generation 1 comic shifted from miniseries to an ongoing monthly, co-written
I love
by
Bruticus.
McDonough
I hear we're gonna
and
get a
Patek,
new
and
Bruticus
drawn
figure,
by
and I really
Figueroa,
hope so.
opening with a story arc notable
And,
for featuring
yep,
the
here's
Japanese
another one.
original character, Sunstorm. The Armada comic
and they
was
introduced that
rebranded
one to the
as
masses.
Transformers Energon to tie in with the launch of the Energon toy line, and added Alex Milne as new regular artist.
And
other
let's
series
see here,
included a
very
three-issue
wife-shaped
More Than Meets
succubus.
the Eye
Yes,
character
she is very
profile series
wife-shaped.
for Armada, a summer special which included robots in disguise and Beast Wars stories, and ran a poll calling on readers to vote for which of the two would get a full-length miniseries.
I think
A
Beast Wars
four-issue
won.
Micromasters miniseries, a third War Within series, The
Which,
Age of
which funny enough is like, apparently that's actually where Knockout comes from. Is Knockout and Blackout come from Micromasters.
Wrath, about the evil alien Quintessons attacking Cybertron, and Divided Front, a sequel to the earlier G.I. Joe crossover set in the 80s. This year
I
also
really
saw
hate the fact
release
that G.I.
of
Joe's
Dorling
constantly
Kindersley's
getting
Ultimate Guide,
like
a
parasitically
guidebook by Simon
attached to
Furman that
Transformers
heavily focused
to
on and fleshed out
try to
the
breathe new
G.I.
life into
universe.
that dying franchise.
As 2004 went on,
I mean, like, it's
more and
it's
more
there, but
allegations
it's just
of no
barely
payment
chugging
piled up,
along.
culminating in McDonough and Patek leaving the company in November after months of going unpaid. Publicly,
Yeah, it's
Dreamwave
G.I.
claimed
Joe
that
over.
everything was fine and that new talent would be joining the company to replace them. But behind the scenes, the Lees spent December transferring what they could of Dreamwave's assets to a new company named Dream Engine, before abruptly declaring Dreamwave bankrupt and shutting it down in the first week of 2005. Dreamwave went out of business owing well over $1 million.
Shoo!
Leaving Generation 1, Energon, The Age of Wrath, and Divided Front all unfinished.
Yeah,
A few
that's
months
not
after Dreamwave's
good.
demise, the Transformers license was acquired by IDW Publishing, who launched
And
their
that's
own
where
new
we,
line of
that's
Transformers
where we
comics
started.
later in the year. None of Dreamwave's series were continued, but two miniseries that had been in development, one about Megatron's origins and the fan vote-winning Beast Wars, were reworked and published by IDW, and the company also released reprint collections of Dreamwave's titles. Though almost nothing
I would
from
love to see, like,
2004 has ever
The
been
War
reprinted
Within,
due to
like,
the
get some bit
creators
of
never having
treatment.
been paid for the work. While Furman would later share the details of how Energon and Age of Wrath would have continued, today, nearly 20 years later, McDonough and Patek have still never revealed where the collection of vague mysteries and unanswered questions Generation 1 ended on was going.
Yeah,
The
that's not good.
ignominious end of Dreamwave is one of the great black marks on
It's a tumor.
Transformers
It's G.I.
It's
Joe.
almost impossible to talk about.
Honestly,
the
yeah,
comics
'cause
today
that's
without
the
talking
problem
about
with
the
G.I. Joe
controversial way
now.
The company imploded and left them unfinished. But that's not to say that in the just under 3 years they were around, Dreamwave didn't have an impact. They put Transformers comics back on the map in an unprecedented way, and their
Yeah.
art was everywhere, defining the
At least
look
they
and
didn't
feel of
deform the
brand for
characters
era,
like,
and launching the careers of creators
Oh
like
no,
Figueroa,
I don't
Woody,
want to know what they did with
Milne,
Pacific
Josh
Rim.
Perez, Josh Burcham, and others, who went on to greater fame.
Also, can I just sit here and say that as much as I love Pacific Rim, right? As much as I really, really love Pacific Rim, it's one of my favorite movies. I think it's really good. My problem with Pacific Rim is that I feel like as a franchise, it just needs to absolutely just die off. Please just stop. Please just stop. Please. Because the more and more they're trying to continue the Pacific Rim, like, franchise, the more they're just kind of killing it.
Working with IDW and other licensees. In reimagining the G1
It's just the next thing looks so
universe,
bad.
Dreamwave were the first
Oh,
to
gotcha.
combine
No, I
ideas
still stand by
from the
that. Like,
original
it's
cartoon,
like, please
the
just-
Marvel comic,
just
and
make
Beast
it
Wars to
stop.
create a streamlined, unified vision for the big aspects
Like,
of
not everything
Transformers
needs to
lore
be a
that future
franchise.
series would build upon. They were the first to establish character-redefining concepts like the young Optimus Prime being a data archivist and Shockwave being a scientist, as well as being the first media to depict
see, here we go.
Ultra Magnus like his original toy as a white duplicate of Optimus beneath his armor, repopularizing the idea and
But the money, yeah, but the money
numerous
is
new
like,
figures.
but
And several of their war designs were turned into toys for
oh no, the titanium line. Oh no. Oh god. If you guys want a good rip into the titanium line, I highly recommend checking out TG Omega's video on that. Because those don't look great. They really were something. To say the least, they were something. I had this. I had there we go. I had the War Within Optimus Prime. My late friend got this for me at a con. No, he actually got it from a collector / video game store called RU Game. And yeah, it is a thing. It is definitely a thing. So the whole shtick with the titanium line is that they all have die-cast metal. Right? They all have die-cast metal. And we'll take this because this is the one that I'm very familiar with. So I want to show you all the die-cast. So die-cast, 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 die-cast. All that's die-cast. And then plastic for the hinges. Very, very floppy hinges on tires with die-cast metal literally here and here just dangling off of it. Yeah, to say that the joints were floppy is an understatement. Just stop. Nah, they're milking it again with a prequel series. Yeah, again, just fucking stop. Like, holy shit. Like, holy Christ on a stick balls. From what I've heard from like TG Omega, this thing is awful. You guys can't see it, but the War Within Megatron, the Titanium Megatron, from what I've heard from TG Omega's video, is that this is probably the worst there we go, of the bunch. And then I hear Grimlock is okay-ish. I haven't seen a whole lot of reviews about it. Hey, Hour, how you doing? Yes, and Pingas. Yes, and Pingas. But yeah, so I haven't heard a whole lot of reviews about the Titanium Grimlock. I don't know if I want to get it because I don't really want a fucking shitty ass toy in my collection. Well, I don't know. I kind of do just because I can sit there and say like, hey, I own a shitty toy. I actually like getting some of these like really bad Transformers. And then there's the Titanium. I don't want to hear anything about the Titanium Starscream
series line, including the company's one major original character, the Fallen. Easily one of Dreamwave's most significant contributions to Transformers canon, the Fallen's debut marked the introduction of the mythology of the original 13 Primes, and he would even go on to appear on the big screen in the 2009 live-action movie.
Compare that to his comic book version. It looks... I kind of prefer the comic book version.
Dreamwave Productions comics happened at exactly the right time to achieve the result they did, riding the twin waves of the anime boom and the 1980s nostalgia craze to achieve incredible success.
Which
young, inexperienced business owners quickly turned into incredible failure.
And that's a shame.
And those are the basics.
Because they really did have a good design. Like, a lot of those comic characters really had really good designs.
We have successes and failures in the comments. For more
But yeah, this was fun.
Like, subscribe,
let me see what other... Like, if you ever guys want to give this guy a follow, do it. Because this guy actually makes a lot of really, really good, like, Transformers lore stuff.